Your kids don't need to come to Christmas, it's adults only, my mom said. My brother snickered. Exactly. They don't belong at the table. I just smiled. That night, I donated every gift I'd bought for his kids. At 9:01 a.m., my mom texted. They're crying. Where are the gifts? I coldly replied. I always knew my family wasn't perfect, but nothing prepared me for what happened last Christmas. My mom called me in early December. She always called around that time of year, acting like she was running some elaborate charity gala and not just a family Christmas. Her voice was sharper than usual. She got right to the point. Your kids don't need to come to Christmas, it's adults only. She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like excluding my 7-year-old and 4-year-old from the only family gathering they know was somehow progressive. Before I could say anything, I heard my brother laughing in the background. Exactly. They don't belong at the table. He snickered like it was some inside joke I wasn't part of. I just said alright and hung up. Didn't give them the satisfaction of hearing what I really thought. I sat there on the edge of the bed, phone still in my hand, and stared at the wall for a good minute. Rachel came in with a laundry basket and saw the look on my face. They said what? She asked me once. I told her exactly what they said. She dropped the basket. Her response was short. Then we're not going. No hesitation. No, maybe they didn't mean it like that. No defending them. Just clarity. And that's why I married her. Now here's what they didn't know. For years, my family made a sport out of underestimating me. I didn't flash wealth, didn't post pictures of vacations or fancy dinners. So they assumed I was broke. They made comments. My mom once joked that I should bring paper plates as my contribution to Thanksgiving. My brother liked to throw in subtle digs about me being cheap or simple. What they never asked, because they never cared, was what I actually did for a living. I run an e-commerce business. It took years of struggle to get off the ground, but now it's thriving. Very few people know how well. I don't show it. I don't drive anything flashy. I don't wear watches that scream money. But last year, I decided to do something different. For once, I wanted to surprise my family with something big. Something they wouldn't expect. I had gifts picked out months in advance. My brother's twins were getting limited edition Lego sets that were already sold out in most places. My mom was getting that silk scarf she once drooled over in a boutique window in Nashville. She'd walked away saying it was too expensive and out of her league. I had gone back the next day and bought it. My dad, who pretended he didn't care about sports anymore, was getting a signed baseball from his childhood hero. And my brother, who kept whining about not being able to afford a decent smartwatch, was getting one that I knew he couldn't afford even on sale. The real deal. And then they banned my kids. That night, Rachel came with me to the garage. I pulled all the wrapped gifts from the trunk. She didn't even have to ask. We drove across town and donated everything to a local shelter that pairs with families in need. The woman at the front desk almost cried when she saw what we brought. Said there was a single mom with 2 boys who'd been hit hard that year and wouldn't be getting anything. I told her the Lego sets would go to them. It felt good. Not the self-righteous kind of good. Not revenge. Just right. Christmas morning at home was calm, cozy, simple. Our kids didn't know they'd been excluded. They had pancakes shaped like snowmen, warm cocoa, and gifts from us that they loved. No drama. No tension. Just laughter and toys scattered across the living room. Then at exactly 9:01 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. They're crying. Where are the gifts? No hello. No Merry Christmas. Just entitlement and confusion. I replied without hesitation. You said it was adults only? No response. For the first time in my life, I think I left her speechless. What she didn't know, not yet, was that things weren't going back to how they used to be. Not this time. Not after this. And definitely not after what happened next. 2 days after Christmas, my mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. Then my brother texted me something so perfectly him, I had to show Rachel. Real mature move, Glenn. Hope your kids enjoyed those Lego sets meant for mine. I didn't reply. I wasn't in the mood to argue with a man who once threw a tantrum because I forgot to bring mustard to a cookout. Rachel just shook her head. You know what he's really mad about? He just realized this year you actually brought the good stuff. That's the thing. They never expected much from me. So when the gifts stopped showing up, it wasn't the absence that hurt them, it was what it revealed. That maybe, just maybe, I'd been holding back all along. And I had. I'm not proud of it, but for years I sent money quietly. Covered part of my parents' rent every month. $600 like clockwork. They never asked, not directly. My mom just hinted about tight times and your father not working as much and this apartment being more than we thought. So I helped. Because I could. Because I thought that's what good sons did. That week, I canceled the recurring payment. I didn't say a word about it. On New Year's Eve, they invited me to dinner. Said we should all talk. Like it was a business meeting, not a family. Rachel asked me if I wanted to go. I said yes. Not to make peace, but because I wanted them to finally hear the truth. We left the kids with a sitter and showed up 15 minutes late. My mom opened the door with that fake tight-lipped smile she uses when she's pretending nothing's wrong. My brother was already sitting at the table, arms crossed, staring at the TV like he couldn't be bothered. We sat. Small talk started. I let them get through the charade. Then my mom asked, "So, what happened this Christmas?" I looked at her. "You banned my kids from a family holiday. What did you expect?" She opened her mouth, but I kept going. "You said it was adults only? So we stayed home. And I donated the gifts. Someone else's kids had a good Christmas this year." My brother laughed under his breath. "Of course you did." I turned to him. "You know what's funny? I was going to buy you a car. A used one, reliable, clean title. You've been whining for years about how yours keeps breaking down. I had it lined up. All you had to do was not be a jerk. But you couldn't manage that." His face went white. He tried to act like he didn't care, but I saw it. I saw the calculation happening in real time. My mom spoke again. "Glenn, we didn't mean to offend. We just thought." "No. You didn't think. You assumed. You always do. You assumed we'd show up, be polite, smile through it. You assumed I was broke. You assumed I wasn't worth respecting until I proved I had money." She looked hurt. I didn't care. Rachel reached into her bag and pulled out a small white envelope. Placed it on the table. "That's your rent statement. The one we've been paying for almost 5 years. $600 a month. Every single month." My dad, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke. "You paid our rent?" I looked at him. "Yeah. I did." Quietly. "Because you said you were struggling?" They were quiet for a long time. My brother looked uncomfortable. My mom blinked like she was trying to reset the conversation. "You should have told us," she said finally. "Why? So you could pretend to be proud of me?" They didn't have a response to that. We stood up. Rachel grabbed her coat. "I told them we wouldn't be coming to Easter. Or Mother's Day. Or anything else." My mom called out as we left. "You're really cutting us off?" I turned back once. "You did that when you told me my kids weren't welcome." We left. Got in the car. Drove home in silence, both of us knowing something had shifted. They thought this was about Christmas. They had no idea how much deeper it went. The calls came daily for a while. First it was my mom. Then my dad. Then my brother, who alternated between pretending nothing happened and trying to guilt-trip me with vague half-apologies like, "We're still family." And, "You know how mom is." I ignored most of it. Rachel blocked them. She said if I ever wanted to talk to them again, that was my decision, but she wasn't going to keep watching them twist me up like they always did. After a week of silence from my end, the tone changed. One afternoon, I got a long text from my mom. A full essay. She finally admitted that maybe the adults-only comment wasn't the best idea. That it had come out wrong. That she just wanted a peaceful, mature holiday and didn't think I'd take it so personally. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, another message from her. "But it's not fair to punish your father for my mistake." That was the moment I realized how deep it ran, how much they all depended on the version of me who never pushed back. Because they weren't just missing the gifts. They were missing the money. Without the $600 a month I'd been sending, they were suddenly feeling the pressure. Rachel was the one who looked into it. She called the landlord number listed on their old rent receipt and got someone on the phone who thought she was our accountant. Turns out they'd already gotten a late payment notice. You think they're more upset about not seeing the kids or about losing their safety net? she asked me later. I didn't have to answer. Meanwhile, my brother went full damage control. He texted me a picture of his car battery on the ground, along with the words, "Guess I'm walking to work now. Thanks." Then, "Hope your kids don't end up with your attitude." Then, a few hours later, "Sorry. That was out of line. Just stressed." I deleted everyone. See, my brother was the golden child. He always knew the right thing to say to our parents. He joked with them, agreed with them, gossiped with them about other relatives. He knew how to play them. And when I stepped back, he probably thought he could just move into my place in the family machine, reliable, helpful, always available. But the thing is, he couldn't afford to. He'd been relying on me for more than he liked to admit. I'd covered his part of a group gift more than once. Paid off a speeding ticket once, just to avoid the headache of him calling me every day for a week. I let it all slide. Not anymore. Mid-January, I got an email from my dad. Subject, a favor. He asked if I could temporarily help with rent until things smoothed over. That's how I knew they still didn't get it. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a hiccup. It was the inevitable crash after years of quiet disrespect. They thought this was about a few toys. A Christmas dinner. It wasn't. It was about the way they looked at my family, at my wife, at my kids, like we were the side story in a narrative that only centered them. Rachel saw it years ago. I didn't. But now, it was crystal clear. I forwarded the email to her. She replied with one sentence. "Want me to draft your response?" I said no. I already had it in my head. I just hadn't written it yet. But I was about to. And this time, they were going to hear me. I didn't write back to my dad right away. I waited 3 days. Not to punish him, but because I wanted to be sure I didn't soften. I'd done that before, got mad, stood my ground, then slowly let guilt undo everything. Not this time. When I finally replied, I kept it simple. Told him I wouldn't be covering the rent anymore. Told him I needed to prioritize my own family. No bitterness. No insults. Just facts. I even said I hoped things worked out for them. He didn't respond. Instead, 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my cousin Jen. We hadn't talked in years. She was younger than me, had moved out of state after college, and mostly stayed out of the family circus. She said she heard some things and just wanted to know if I was okay. I asked what she'd heard. Apparently, my mom had started telling people I'd cut them off completely. That I was acting like I was better than everyone. And that Rachel had poisoned me against my own family. That last part got me. Rachel, who sat through awkward dinners, who always made sure our kids brought something to share, who once loaned my mom money for a dentist appointment when I was out of town, was now the villain? I thanked Jen for the call, and right before we hung up, she said, "You know, they're probably not telling people the part where you paid their rent for 5 years. Then she added something unexpected. "Also, your brother? He's been selling stuff online. Someone I know bought a watch off Facebook Marketplace last week. It had your initials engraved on the back." I almost dropped the phone. I had the smartwatch I was going to give him engraved. GH, short, subtle. I checked the receipt. It was the one. He had broken into the trunk of my car a few days before Christmas. I'd left it unlocked in their driveway when I stopped by for 5 minutes to drop off something I forgot. I never thought to check after that. I drove straight to the shelter where I donated everything. Spoke to the same woman. She told me they had everything cataloged. Both Lego sets. The scarf. The baseball. But the watch? It never made it there. Rachel was fuming. I was quiet. Angry quiet. So I called him. He answered like he'd been expecting it. Didn't even try to lie. "It was just sitting there," he said. "I figured you weren't going to give it to me anyway. You stole from me. You weren't going to use it. What's the difference?" "The difference," I said, "is that now I know exactly who you are." I hung up. Blocked his number. That night, I did something else I never thought I'd do. I sat down with Rachel, opened up our budget, and did the math on everything I used to spend on my family: gifts, money, holidays, extra expenses, all of it. Then I took that total and made a plan. Every dollar I used to spend on them, we'd now spend on us. On our kids. On travel. On the house. On things that actually mattered. Because I finally saw the truth. They never hated me for not giving enough. They hated me for what I could give, and the fact that I kept it to myself. And now that they knew, they wanted access. But access was over. The door was closed. And this time, it was staying that way. It took them a few weeks to realize I wasn't bluffing. No calls. No texts. Nothing on birthdays. Not a single message when our youngest lost her first tooth and Rachel posted a photo. That used to be the kind of thing my mom would comment on with 1,000 emojis. This time, silence. But then something shifted. In early March, a letter showed up. Not a card, not a note. A full letter, handwritten, in my mother's cursive. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, the kind she saved for special occasions. I almost didn't open it. Rachel said to burn it. I waited a day. Then curiosity won. It was 5 pages long. She opened with a memory. Me at age 9, getting lost at a museum. How she cried when she couldn't find me. How she prayed out loud in the middle of the building. How she swore she'd never take her eyes off me again. Then it turned. She said I was cruel. That I'd embarrassed the family. That I'd let money make me arrogant. That Rachel had turned me into someone cold. That I'd taken joy away from the only people who ever loved me unconditionally. I read it once. Then again. There was no apology. No ownership. Just a veiled plea dressed in guilt. Rachel found me staring at the letter an hour later. She didn't even have to ask what it said. Burn it? She said again. I nodded. She lit a match in the sink, held the corner of the paper to it, and watched it turn black and flake into ash. We didn't speak. The next week, I got an email. This time it was from the landlord of my parents' building. Not a mistake. He said they'd given him my email directly. That rent had been unpaid since January. That my mom said I was their financial power of attorney, and had always handled this stuff. He attached an invoice for $1,800 and asked how I'd like to proceed. That was the moment I realized how far they were willing to go. They hadn't just burned bridges. They were trying to rebuild them with my name and wallet. I called the landlord. Told him the truth. That I had no legal ties. That I hadn't sent a dime since Christmas. That he should never contact me again. He sighed. Said it wasn't the first time he'd seen something like this. That night I sat down with Rachel. We talked for hours. About the kids. About the house. About the future. Then I told her something I hadn't said out loud yet. I want to move. Out of state. No. Just away. Fresh start. No more surprise visits. No more driveway pop-ins. No more being a 20-minute drive from people who only remember I exist when they need something. She smiled. I've been waiting for you to say that. So we started looking. New schools. New neighborhoods. A new chapter. I didn't tell my parents. Not yet. They still thought this was a fight. They didn't know it was a farewell. We moved in June. Quietly, no announcement. No Facebook posts. No mass texts. We packed everything over 2 weeks and hired movers for a Thursday morning. By the time the sun set, we were 2 counties away, in a home with more trees, less traffic, and not a single memory of them in the walls. I didn't leave a forwarding address. The only person in the family who knew was my cousin Jen. She kept it to herself. Rachel and I poured everything I used to give them into our new life. We took the kids to a cabin in the mountains that summer. I upgraded my home office. Rachel finally started her Etsy business after years of talking about it. We were lighter. Freer. You don't realize how much weight you're carrying until it's gone. In July, on my birthday, I got a package. No return address. Just a white box taped shut. Inside was a photo album. Every page had pictures of me growing up, family holidays, birthdays, sports games, school events. But someone had gone through with a marker and blacked out Rachel's face in every photo she was in. In one, they scribbled over my kids too. At the end of the album, a note was tucked in. You used to belong to us. Now you belong to her. Rachel didn't say a word. She picked it up, walked outside, and dropped the album into the trash bin. Then she came back in, poured herself a glass of wine, and kissed my forehead. They were spiraling, clinging to something that didn't exist anymore. Trying to hurt me, guilt me, shame me. But it was too late. None of it worked. In September, my brother emailed me. The subject line was just, "Dad's sick." I stared at it for a long time. Then I hit delete. The guilt didn't come. The hesitation didn't come. I thought about all the moments they could have chosen kindness, respect, decency, and didn't. I thought about the time they banned my kids from a family Christmas and laughed about it. I thought about the watch he stole and sold. I thought about the rent I paid in silence and the accusations they sent in writing. And I thought about the faces of my children on Christmas morning, warm, safe, loved. I never answered the email. 2 weeks later, Rachel and I took the kids to the coast for the weekend. We watched them chase waves and build crooked sandcastles. That night, over dinner, I looked at her and said, "I'm done for good." She didn't ask who I meant. She already knew. We didn't cut ties with family. We just chose to stop bleeding for people who kept holding the knife. And now, I get to spend every extra dollar, every extra hour, every ounce of energy on the only people who ever saw me for who I am. A husband. A father. Not a wallet. Not a backup plan. Not a doormat. And not theirs. Not anymore. It's been 3 months since the move. No contact. No drama. No unexpected mail, no weird emails, no fake emergencies. Just peace. I didn't realize how loud it had been, how much mental space they took up, until it all went quiet. My mornings are slower now. I wake up, make coffee, pack the kids' lunches, walk them to the bus stop with Rachel. We laugh more. We sleep better. Rachel's Etsy shop? It's booming. She launched a custom holiday line, and her pre-orders for winter already beat what she made all last year. I'm handling the back-end for her in my spare time, website tweaks, payment integrations, inventory. It's the first time we've really built something together, and it feels good. The business I run? Still growing. Last month was my highest earning quarter since I started. I treated myself to something small but meaningful, a guitar I used to dream about owning when I was broke. Rachel told me I deserved 10 of them. The kids? Thriving. Our oldest made a new best friend on the first week of school. Our youngest finally started sleeping through the night again, something she stopped doing months ago during all the family tension. She seems lighter too, like even she can feel the shift. We carved pumpkins last night. Just us four. Music playing in the background, Rachel burning her weird cinnamon candles that somehow smell like actual pie. No rushing to someone else's house. No wondering if this year I'd be ignored or insulted. I don't miss them. Not anymore. I thought I would. I thought I'd wake up some mornings and feel the ache of not being part of the family anymore. But the truth is, I'm part of one now. A real one. One we built. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm living around the edges of someone else's story. This is mine. And it's just getting started.